Tom Cotton, Republican senator from Arkansas, member of Armed Services and Intelligence Committees, is standing by with us right now. And first, we want to show you some video President Zelensky aired during his speech. We need to warn our viewers that the images are disturbing. Some of you may have seen some of this. Some of it is graphic. Let's watch together. Senator Cotton, President Zelensky said the sky is the death zone and called for help. What was the reaction in the room, and what has it been like outside of that U.S. Congress meeting, that address by Zelensky?
Good morning, Harris. President Zelensky's address was very moving. He got repeated rounds of applause during the address. I agree with his call on President Biden to lead the free world to help Ukraine defend itself from Vladimir Putin's naked war of aggression. Unfortunately, President Biden has been on the back foot throughout this conflict and indeed in the run up to the conflict. He's been dragged in many cases by the Congress, in many cases by President Zelensky and the brave Ukrainians fighting back against Russia, to taking steps that we should have taken long ago. President Zelensky today repeated his urgent request for those Polish MiG aircrafts,
right,
or for anti-aircraft and anti-missile defense systems, for drones and for other kinds of air defenses. We should have been providing those over the last 3 weeks. We really should have been providing them over the last 3 months. And there's not a moment to spare to get them to the front lines to help Ukraine close its skies.
Real quickly, how unified are you actually in the Senate right now? Because the statement by the Senate Intelligence Chairman, a committee you sit on, Mark Warner, just moments ago says he, incredibly moved by the words this morning by Zelensky, President Zelensky noticed that the U.S. has already taken unprecedented steps to rally the world, isolate Russia economically, and to support Ukraine's efforts to defend itself. We should heed the call for defensive aid, including anti-tank weapons, anti-aircraft missiles. I mean, I read this entire thing. There is no mention of supplying MiG-29s, and that was the biggest ask next to a no-fly zone, which we know at this point is probably never going to happen. What's your reaction?
A lot of Democratic senators are carrying water for the president, but privately, they wish the president had moved faster as well.
Well, how does that help?
So I hope that they're privately pressuring the president to move. Again, you've seen this time and again, whether it was the central bank sanctions or the sanctions to the international SWIFT payment system, supplying those anti-tank missiles and supplying the anti-aircraft missiles. But there is more that we can do. We should have provided those aircrafts last week.
Right.
It looked ridiculous for the Secretary of State on Sunday of last week to say they have a green light, and then on Tuesday for the president to overrule it. But it's not only those aircraft that we could provide Ukraine to help them close their skies. There are air defense systems, much like our Patriot missile system, that Ukraine urgently needs, that many of our NATO allies have and are willing to provide, that President Biden should have been pushing into Ukraine days or weeks ago.
I hear you on the should have, would have, could have. We are where we are right now. And I have to be honest, Senator, from watching what we saw as the world, as the nation this morning, and then reading statements and looking at what the Democrats are saying, I don't know if private conversations get it. I mean, Senator Graham is putting together a resolution that he wants to try to get on the floor ASAP, maybe even by the end of this week. Do you really think you have that much bipartisan support? Because that's going to call out those Democrats who don't do at the very least what you're talking about.
I think most Democrats, if they have to go on record, will support the request that President Zelensky has made. But again, look at President Biden announcing that he'll be going to a NATO summit next Thursday, 8 days away. We don't have 8 days to help Ukraine. We need to get these weapon systems to Ukraine right now. They urgently need them, not just to protect against Russian aircraft, but against Russian missiles that are being fired from Russian soil. There's not 8 days to wait.
One quick one before we move on. There's mentioned reports by NBC that Switchblade drones are being talked about. Have we used those? What actually would that help the Ukrainians do?
So those drones would be effective against a lot of the ground positions, because a lot of the shelling you're seeing is not coming from the sky or from missiles, Harris. It's coming from artillery batteries, and those drones are effective. In effect, one-way kill vehicles that could target those artillery and those missile batteries that are inside of Ukraine that are currently targeting Ukraine's major cities.
President Zelensky, with a lot of pleas for help this morning, this one in particular, let's watch.
We propose that the United States sanctions all politicians in the Russian Federation who remain in their offices and do not cut ties with those who are responsible for the aggression against Ukraine, from State Duma's members to the last official who has lack of morale to break this state terror.
So that's happening, but part of the piece from Axios reads this way: the unprecedented sanctions the West imposed on Russia have hobbled its economy and are hurting the global system too. But their primary purpose, arguably, is to stop the fighting, and that's not yet happening. Senator Cotton, your reaction?
Unfortunately, the sanctions haven't stopped the fighting. It would have been much better to start these sanctions weeks or months ago. Again, this is another example of President Biden being on the back foot, not wanting to take any action that might offend any of our allies in Europe. Hoping that he could somehow dissuade Vladimir Putin from invading when he had 200,000 troops on Ukraine's border. That time has passed. We need to focus on the here and now. We need to throw the kitchen sink at Moscow on these sanctions, but more importantly, we need to get these weapons to the front lines. You know what will stop Russian aircraft and Russian missiles? S-300 air defense systems, not sanctions on Russian politicians, as appropriate as those are. It's time for the White House to quit dragging its feet and send everything that shoots to every Ukrainian that can arm it, or that can carry those arms.
Before I let you go, because I know that you have led many, you serve this nation in the military, is there any compunction? Would there be any way, the next time we see lawmakers, for them to stand together bipartisan? Is there any hunger for that? And who would put that together, particularly in the Senate?
There is a way, Harris, and you saw it last week in the House of Representatives when they voted to repeal Russia's permanent most favored nation status. We're going to do the same thing in the Senate this week, I hope. It is an example of how Congress has been united in a bipartisan fashion in trying to make this president more forward-leaning to help get the United States back on the front foot. So I do think you see Democrats in the Congress who know that we should have acted earlier and we should have acted more strongly, and who want to do that now.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll be covering all of it. We so appreciate your time today. Senator Cotton from the great state of Arkansas, thank you.
Thank you, Harris.